How's this, Squidward?
It's beautiful.
This isn't a sculpture. A good sculpture takes more time.
Given the lack of alarm towards the subject, it's my suspicion that most people share a pretty ignorant view of what AI art generators are capable of. I'm guessing most people think AI is only good for producing psychedelic-looking mashups of things that are only vaguely accurate, such as, if you want to see Saul Goodman as a Beanie Baby, you can use an AI to do that, and it might sort of look like Saul Goodman as a Beanie Baby. I feel like in the minds of most, that's where the usefulness of AI starts and ends. Well, I'm here today to tell you, if that's you, you're wrong. Artificial intelligence is at the point now where it's more than proficient enough to create wholly original art that is basically impossible to discern from human-made work. It's so sophisticated now, I actually believe it represents an existential threat to artists. Don't believe me? Well then, why don't we conduct a simple test? I am going to show you 4 pieces of art, and I want you to tell me which one was made by an AI. First, we have 2 pages of a comic with a pleasant neon cyberpunk aesthetic taking place in what looks to be a dystopian cityscape. Second, an Andy Warhol-style drawing of a man riding horseback against a space backdrop. Very cool. Third, a recreation of Johannes Vermeer's painting Girl with the Pearl Earring, except the pearl earring has been replaced with a regular earring, I guess. And last, a fox sitting alone in a field during a colorful sunset, painted in the style of Claude Monet. I apologize for the butchered pronunciation, I'm sorry. One of these 4 paintings is generated. You're probably having a rather difficult time. Each and every one of them looks so legit. And if you're certain you know which one it is, well, you're probably correct, because I lied to you. They're all AI generated. Yes, every one of these was created by an AI with minimal post work. Even the comic, which is not just a single image, but a sequence of panels that conveys a cohesive story, was generated by an AI. That makes me feel really good, knowing that this image was made near instantly when it would have taken me over like a dozen hours to do.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt.
I'm sure you're wondering exactly how these images came to be. And, well, I'm not even going to pretend to have an iota of technical knowledge behind the wizardry of artificial intelligence, as I'm not a scientist, so I'll just give you the SparkNotes version instead. The program used to create these images is called DALL-E 2. And it's an AI that has been in development since 2021 by the research and development company OpenAI. Their stated goal is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all humanity. If by benefit all humanity you mean put millions of artists out of work, I suppose I would agree with that statement.
Damn.
The full scope of what DALL-E can do is kind of amazing. When given a simple text prompt, DALL-E 2 can generate a wholly original piece that has never existed before by using a large catalog of images to reference. It can emulate the amateurish scribblings of a child, corporate flat design, realistic photography, surrealist paintings, environmental matte paintings, character concept work, and so on and on and on. It can also edit and touch up existing images, as well as take existing art and modify its art style, or change its perspective, or change the frame to include additional material. It can do pretty much anything, and the images it's capable of producing are oftentimes impossible to perceive from actual art. I genuinely would not be able to tell that some of these were AI generated if I wasn't informed of that. And I make art. I feel like I should know. I don't think it's all that alarmist of me to say that this technology has the potential to render the creative arts as an obsolete profession. Think about it. Why would any client, especially some evil corporation, choose to work with an artist when this technology exists? Why work with a human being who would not only cost lots of money, but would also take days to complete drafts and revisions, and whose work might not immediately be satisfactory? Why would a client choose to bear the hassle of dealing with those feeble human limitations when they could just pay an annual fee to some program that can generate hundreds of designs for them near instantly? Certainly, a graphic designer might always be needed to touch up the final product, to ensure that the AI's work is perfect, but the majority of the process that requires the most artistic skill has been gutted and replaced, effectively killing the art part of being an artist. I imagine at this point, some of you are thinking this is all a bit hyperbolic. Brady, you're doing a whole lot of fear-mongering over a bit of fantastical sci-fi tech that will never actually be used professionally. Well, have I news for you, buddy. Turns out AI-generated artwork is already being implemented in the anime industry in Japan. Toei Animation, the studio behind franchises such as Dragon Ball and One Piece, has already begun experimenting with AI-made background art in their productions. A short titled Irvan was made using AI-generated backgrounds, and it looks pretty okay in my opinion. As okay as anime can look anyway. In a statement on the implementation of the AI, Toei Animation executives stated that the reason for pushing for the technology was to cut down on the cost of making animation and to increase the speed of production. Shocker. And that's really the big motivator behind AI art, isn't it? How do we make the world spin faster? How do we avoid paying human beings for their labor? How do we keep more money for ourselves? Well, the answer is quite simple, really. Remove human beings from the transaction entirely, duh. And I can understand those that might shrug their shoulders at such a thing and say, oh well, technology evolves, so we should learn to evolve with it. I get that, I do, and I also understand that with every technological innovation comes the eventual nullification of a career path. When cars replaced horse-drawn carriages, a whole host of jobs disappeared, from horse breeders to carriage drivers to the guys that made the carriages. That loss was sad to those people, but that's just the nature of progress, right? Gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet or whatever.
Yes,
but
sir.
I think there's something fundamentally different about AI-generated artwork. We're not just talking about a change in profession, carriage drivers to taxi drivers. This is about the full-scale replacement of people. For example, in the animation industry, if background artists can be replaced by AI, it's pretty easy to imagine that color artists, the guys who fill in the line art, could probably be replaced too. And maybe even in-betweeners. I can picture that a smart enough AI could probably guess where the correct line placement should be in between keyframes. It's also probable that an AI could do the majority of the sound design, especially on long-running shows like One Piece that reuse sound assets in soundtracks all the time. I can also see AI being used to do the majority of the heavy lifting for visual development departments, as the majority of concept work could easily be done by programs like DALL-E. AI could also do the majority of compositing. You get the point. Every part of the animation pipeline is replaceable, and that's just talking about that single industry. And those are just the long-term concerns I have with AI. But in the short term, there's like a whole host of serious questions about the practice we desperately need to address. Questions like, does something made from an AI count as original artwork? I mean, if DALL-E takes existing art and uses it in its compositions, isn't that kind of like art theft? I kind of think so. Can you really call an image that was generated in seconds art when a piece with similar depth made by a human may have taken upwards of dozens of hours and a lifetime of honing their skill? Outside of the shock factor at how advanced AI can be, certainly AI art is less impressive. Can AI artwork even be emotionally evocative if it doesn't have a human creator? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, I leave you with these questions to ponder while I will be on vacation, enjoying my time fishing and being alone in nature, not thinking about any of this. So, anyway, see ya.